Who's to say that with a win against Daniel Zellhuber, we ain't gonna get Bobby Green versus Michael fucking Chandler? See you at the fucking top! I've got to relax. What's going on, boys? My name is Jack and welcome to the Fight Vaults. UFC Mexico takes place this weekend, and today I am going to be talking about the stakes for each of the key fighters involved. We're going to start with the main event. We're going to finish with the third fight from the top, because bit of an underwhelming card. As you can see on the graph here, we've got the winning outcome, the losing outcome. If a certain fighter wins, we're going to be ranking how good that win would be in terms of their career. And if a fighter loses, we're going to be ranking how bad or good that loss will be in terms of their career. Now, we're not going to waste any time. We're going to jump straight onto the main event. We're going to start with Brandon Moreno. Now, Brandon Moreno is currently ranked 6th in the flyweight division, fresh off of a loss against Tatsuro Taira where he got beaten, punches from back mount in round 2. But previous to that, he beat Steve Erceg by decision. He beat Amir Albazi by decision. So he had a bit of momentum coming into the Tatsuro Taira fight. We now know that Tatsuro Taira is getting the flyweight championship opportunity fight against Josh Van. And Brandon Moreno was meant to be fighting Asu Almabayev. Asu Almabayev had to pull out, so the UFC decided to throw Lona Kavanagh in against him. Now, I'm English, I'm British, I like my home country fighters, but Lona Kavanagh does not deserve this fight, especially fresh after getting KO'd by Charles Johnson. I know he was looking good in that fight, but he still got KO'd by Charles Johnson. It is worth mentioning that before that, he was on a 10-fight win streak, so if you blur the lines, it's not the end of the world, but once again, just been knocked out. And for that reason alone, I think if Brandon Moreno beats Lona Kavanagh, is anyone going to act too surprised? I know Lona Kavanagh's dangerous, but in terms of his recent fight and in terms of his recent outcome, if Brandon Moreno goes in there and starches him, is anyone going to say, oh my God, this win is incredible, we've got to put him on to bigger and better things? People are going to say you beat Lona Kavanagh, who is unranked, and that's another thing that I wanted to point out, which is really weird. Just this morning, Lona Kavanagh went from ranked 15 in the flyweight division to unranked, and Joseph Morales took his place. I thought it was weird because when I heard the news, I thought maybe Alibi Idris, who just beat Ode Osborne, might have taken the 15 spot. But no, it's Jose Morales. So now we've got Brandon Moreno fighting an unranked guy coming off of a loss. So the winning outcome is definitely not going to be up here. It's going to be quite low. If Brandon Moreno wins, who's going to give a fuck? You know what I mean? It's another Brandon Moreno classic win. And on the flip side, if Brandon Moreno loses to Lona Kavanagh, do you think people are going to give him the benefit of the doubt? Coming off of a loss against Tatsuro Taira? No. People are going to give him shit. So, starting off this video, we've got Brandon Moreno with a bad losing outcome and a bad winning outcome. And we've kind of got a lot of fights like this on the main card where it's like veteran versus prospect. If the veteran wins, it's kind of like, oh, okay, you've beaten someone untested. If the veteran loses, oh, okay, this is really bad. You're done. You were once good, now you're not. I'm going to put you around here purely because I think if Brandon Moreno loses, he's probably going to get knocked out. And I see Mystic Jack here, but I see a situation where if Brandon Moreno loses, and I'm not picking Brandon Moreno to lose here, but if he does lose, the likelihood is that he's going to be winning the fight and he's going to get caught. So the losing outcome is still not going to be down here because he will probably be winning the fight. But I think we're going to settle him in here because with a win, it's not going to do much for him at all. With a loss, it's going to be pretty bad. And we're going to be moving on to his opponent, Lona Kavanagh, who we've just been talking about. Fresh off of a KO loss against Charles Johnson. He ate a right hook and then he ate a whole bunch of fucking ground and pound in round 2, which put him down, killing all of the momentum that he had going into that fight. But that opens up a conversation of where will we place him if he beats Brandon Moreno. Now, as an unranked guy, just dropped out of the rankings, beating a guy who is currently number 6. A win over Brandon Moreno is going to do wonders for Lona Kavanagh. It's going to get him back on track. The UFC like guys that are violent. The UFC like guys who are putting on a show. They don't like fucking crotch sniffers. So with a win over Brandon Moreno for an unranked guy, this is really good for Lona Kavanagh. Now, in my opinion, if Lona Kavanagh loses to Brandon Moreno, it's not necessarily a situation where it's like, oh, he's unranked, Brandon Moreno beat him. Lona Kavanagh is in a situation where he is trying to get his momentum back. And with a loss over Brandon Moreno, sure, he might get matched up with someone fairly decent in his next fight. But in reality, if he loses to Brandon Moreno, this is going to kill a whole load more of the momentum that he is about to potentially pick up with the main event this weekend. We know that if he loses this fight against Brandon Moreno, he's most likely not going to get another ranked fight for a while. He's going to have to fight himself back up in the division. So his losing outcome is pretty rough. And for that reason, I think it's probably suitable that we put him here. With a win, it's incredible. You're an unranked guy beating a former champion. With a loss, you got to build yourself back up, buddy. So I think we're going to be putting him straight above Brandon Moreno, right here. If he wins against Brandon Moreno, the whole world is opening up for this guy. I think the UFC are going to be doing some good things with him if he does come off of a win. He's got a whole handful of potential opponents that he could go against. We might be able to see an Asual Mabaya versus Lona Kavanagh. We might be able to see a Tim Elliott who's still in the rankings. What the fuck? But that seems like an easy build-up fight. I don't want to say easy. I'm never going to say easy with Tim Elliott. I redact my statement there. But Lona Kavanagh versus Tim Elliott might be a way for the UFC to go, oh, he's just beating Brandon Moreno. We're not necessarily going to throw him up against the top 5, but we got some names 5 through 10 that we can match him up against. Alex Perez, who's just got a win against Charles Johnson. Tim Elliott, who, as I just said, bit of an unk at this stage. Slightly more beatable than his old crafty self 3 years ago when he was still 45,000 years old. Or Amir Albazi, who the UFC seem to just continuously like seeing getting slimed out. So Lona Kavanagh, he's going to go straight here. And we're going to be moving on to the next fight that we're going to be talking about, and that is Chito Marlon Vera. Now, where to put Chito Vera? He's fighting David Martinez. David Martinez is on a very, very big win streak. 9-fight win streak, to be exact. And Chito Vera is coming off of a loss against Aiemann Zahabi. He's also coming off of a loss against Davison Figueiredo. He's also coming off of a loss against Sean O'Malley. This guy's on a 3-fight losing streak. Now, the question is, are we likely to see Chito Vera get cut with a loss over David Martinez? I don't think so, right? We're probably not going to see him get cut because the UFC like him, the fans like him, he's a character, you know that. He sells tickets. We know Chito Vera sells tickets. However, in saying that, if you lose against David Martinez, you're on a 4-fight losing streak. You're not going to get cut, right? So we're not going to put you all the way down here, but you ain't going to be up here, buddy, because if you lose to David Martinez, you've lost to a guy, albeit he's a prospect on a 9-fight win streak, but you're losing to a guy who doesn't have that much notoriety. And in the eyes of the UFC, that outcome is pretty bad. Now, with a win over David Martinez, like I said, David Martinez isn't very well known. The hardcore fans know who David Martinez is. You know what I'm saying? The hardcore guys know who this is. But for the casual fans, we don't really know David Martinez yet. You know what I'm saying? His only elite win, if you want to call it elite, is against Rob Font in his last fight. But even that was a bit of a decision. You know what I'm saying? So if Chito Vera loses to this guy, it is not good. If Chito Vera beats this guy, are we really going to call home about it? I don't really think so. It will be good in terms of he snapped his losing streak, so we're not going to float him around the middle. We're going to put him up relatively high. We're not necessarily going to say he's going to be higher than Lona Kavanagh with a win over Brandon Moreno as an unranked fighter. And in actual fact, fuck it. I'm moving Lona Kavanagh a little bit higher. It will be really good for his career and turnaround if he wins against Brandon Moreno. Now, Chito Vera, if he beats David Martinez, he snapped his losing streak. He's kind of proven that he's still got it against an up-and-coming prospect. You know what I'm saying? Like Chito Vera, he's getting a little bit old now. He's 33, but in the bantamweight division, where there is just killers left, right, and center, when you slow down, when you lose momentum, it's not good. So if he beats David Martinez, happy days. If he loses to David Martinez, it's really bad. You are now on a 4-fight losing streak, brother. Bad times for Chito Vera. So I think we're going to leave Chito Vera here. It's going to be good with a win. It's going to be real bad with a loss. I'm going to be moving on to his opponent, David Martinez. As I said, we were just talking about him 1 minute ago. And as I said, this guy's on a 9-fight win streak. He's now, after beating Rob Font, by unanimous decision, after beating Rob Font, he is now opening himself up to face these bigger names. He draws Chito Vera, and it seems like this guy's getting a little bit of Dana White privilege, or it's about to be the start of it. I don't know. I know UFC are constantly trying to build up Mexican fighters. They have been doing for the longest of times. They tried with Danny Zellhuber. We'll get onto this motherfucker in a minute. But yeah, they're continuously trying to build up Mexican fighters. They always want to penetrate the Mexican fucking fan base of MMA. And it seems like outside of Brandon Moreno, Daniel Zellhuber, Tracy Cortez, the list goes on, David Martinez might be their prime guy that they're trying to push at the moment. So with a win over Chito Vera, this guy's coming off of Rob Font and Chito Vera, back-to-back W's. He'll be on a 10-fight win streak. He'll be in prime position to potentially get himself a name like Davison Figueiredo or Song Yadong. You never know. With a win over Chito Vera, we might just see that being next for David Martinez. So I think we are going to be putting David Martinez relatively high here. And you know what? I think we're going to be ranking him higher with a win than Lona Kavanagh, because Lona Kavanagh with a win will be drawing some mid-tier ranked opponent to kind of solidify himself. If he wins by fluky knockout, you never know. But I think David Martinez with a win over Chito Vera, he's building up a very solid resume. He's on a massive win streak. He's priming himself to face these big guys. And then who knows, this guy might be 1 or 2 fights away from fighting for the title. We've seen stranger things. And equally, just by the way that the fans have this massive adoration for Chito Vera, I think if David Martinez loses to Chito Vera, it's not going to be the end of the world for him. He's currently ranked 10th. If he loses to Chito Vera, who is ranked above him, then the opportunities don't go away for David Martinez. We've still got a Peyton Talbot match to maybe have. We've still maybe got a Vinicius Oliveira match to have if he doesn't move up to featherweight. We might be able to see Kyler Phillips or Montel Jackson. We don't know. But this guy's still going to remain in the rankings. So I don't think with a loss against Chito Vera, it's going to be the end of the world. Chito Vera has shut down Pedro Munoz, has shut down Dominic Cruz with a fucking head kick. Crazy scenes just 4 years ago. Shut down Rob Font, shut down Frankie Edgar with a fucking disgusting head kick, front kick, smushed his face up. You know what I'm saying? Chito Vera, he's been around the block. He's got a fucking highlight reel. This guy is known for fucking people up when he has momentum on his side. So I think if David Martinez loses to Chito Vera, although rankings-wise it's not going to be good for him, I don't think it's going to be the end of the world. We've seen Chito do this to people before. So I think there's no other place to put David Martinez than with a good win, it's better than if Lona Kavanagh gets a win. And with a loss, it's better than any of these guys losing. We're going to be putting David Martinez square in the top right. And with that, we move on to the next Mexican prospect. What a fucking crazy turn of events it has been for Daniel Zellhuber, eh? Literally nicknamed the Golden Boy. And you lost to Michael Johnson. Lots of people lose to Michael Johnson. He is the, what's the word? The outlier in the mixed martial arts world. Unk still got it. Beats Tony Ferguson. Beats Edson Barboza. Beats Dustin Poirier. Loses to Darren Elkins. Loses to fucking Stevie Ray. Loses to Miles Jury. You can just never place your finger on the menace, Michael Johnson. And Daniel Zellhuber fell victim to him in his last fight back at UFC 318. And what have the UFC done? They've decided, hey Daniel, you know one time we were pushing you to be the next big thing in Mexico? You've just lost to an unk. Guess what? We're giving you another unk. And we've got Daniel Zellhuber versus Bobby Green this weekend, boys. Bobby Green being a very similar fighter to Michael Johnson. And it's incredibly simple to break this down. And I like to call it crack jitsu. You know what I'm saying? I don't need to explain it anymore. You know what I'm talking about. Bobby Green and Michael Johnson, don't blink. That's all I'm going to say. These unks got fucking hands. And Daniel Zellhuber is going to be facing Bobby Green. Now, with a loss against Bobby Green, having come off of a loss against Michael Johnson and a loss against Esteban Ribovic will give you a fucking free pass because that guy's good. You are cooked. Daniel Zellhuber, you're cooked. Absolutely cooked. I'm not going to drop you all the way down there because with a win over Bobby Green, you have snapped a 2-fight loss streak where people have continuously been doubting you. You've kind of turned into a bit of a meme at this point. But Bobby Green is always ready to go. Bobby Green has incredible hands. Bobby Green can knock people the fuck out. And Bobby Green is fresh off of a win against Lance Gibson Jr. Although previous to that, lost to Mauricio Ruffy, lost to Paddy Pimblett. If you beat Bobby Green, it's a pretty good outcome based on the state of your career currently. You snap your loss streak against a guy who has momentum, who is dangerous, who's proven himself time and time again, is a little bit old, so we're not classing it as an elite win, so you ain't going to be up here, brother. But I think mid to kind of high mid-range with a win is where you're going to be, Daniel Zellhuber, because in terms of your career, you really do need this at the moment, right? However, with a loss, now we're going to talk about the storyline of the fact that Daniel Zellhuber once upon a time was the UFC's golden boy, as his nickname says. They were building him up. As I said, always want to build up Mexican fighters. If you lose, you are now on a 3-fight losing streak. And in your last 2 fights, you would have lost against 2 fighters with a combined age of 78. And for that reason alone, I just can't put you anywhere other than here, my brother. A loss would be terrible for you. A win would be a little bit better than, It is still Bobby Green at the end of the day. But I think this is where we're going to be putting Daniel Zellhuber. This makes sense to me, right? And we're going to be moving on to his opponent. And the last fight that we're going to be talking about, yo, Paddy, man. I feel like Bobby Green's got a lisp. Yo, what are you saying, bro? Bobby Green. Now, as I said, Bobby Green, fresh off of a win against Lance Gibson Jr. And Lance Gibson Jr., it was a short notice fight, but this guy's 31 years old. This guy is 9-2, was 9-1 when he fought Bobby Green, was a favourite, had a lot of momentum, and Bobby Green went out there and implemented crafty vet skills. Beating him over 3 rounds, got the split decision win, snapping his 2-fight loss streak. And I tell you what, if Bobby Green beats Daniel Zellhuber, holy shit, this guy is back. And I'm a big Bobby Green fan. I love Bobby Green. And if he beats Daniel Zellhuber, let me point out that Bobby Green is a plus 350 underdog in this fight. If he beats Daniel Zellhuber, when everyone's counting him out, that is incredible for him. So he's going to be sky high here. And I think that also goes hand in hand in the fact that as he is a massive underdog, Daniel Zellhuber's like a minus 500 favourite or something. If Bobby Green loses, we kind of already expect it. And it's not like Bobby Green is on a crazy loss streak, so he's at fear of getting cut from the UFC. Bobby Green always puts on exciting fights. Bobby Green does great business with the UFC. Bobby Green puts fucking boots on asses. Wait, that's not what I was trying to say. Bobby Green puts fucking booties on seats. So I don't think this guy has anything to worry about with a loss here. It's not the best thing in the world, obviously, so we're going to put him mid-range. But I think if Bobby Green beats Daniel Zellhuber, this guy might just be putting himself in a prime position for a next opponent. And in my mind, I've got a really good opponent that if Bobby Green beats Daniel Zellhuber in Bobby Green upset fashion like we've seen him do in recent years, Bobby Green versus Michael fucking Chandler. You know what I mean? Bobby Green, Michael Chandler. Bobby Green was adopted. The storyline's there. And let me just remind you that the White House card is in 4 months. That is ample time to fight, recover, prepare, and scrap again. Who's to say that with a win against Daniel Zellhuber, we ain't gonna get Bobby Green versus Michael fucking Chandler? See you at the fucking top! I've got to relax. Fucking hell. Bobby Green could be putting himself in a really, really good position with a win over Daniel Zellhuber. And with a loss, it's not the end of the world. So I think there's no other place to put Bobby Green than right here. And I think overall that's going to do it for me. I think this makes sense here. I think Daniel Zellhuber has the most to lose in this event. And I think Bobby Green, who just so happens to be his opponent, has the most to gain in this one. And then the guy who's probably going to have the worst stock rise with a win is obviously Brandon Moreno, who we spoke about. But yeah, I think that's going to be it. And I think that's going to be the video. So if you can, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree with this graph. Let me know what you would change. I know there's only 6 fighters, but as I said at the start of the beginning, the rest of the card is a bit shit. Well, maybe not shit, but shit in terms of name value. And I know that not a lot of people are going to be clicking on the video if they've got fucking Kevin Borjas on this graph. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, as I said, if you can like, comment, subscribe, leave a comment, hit the bell, do all of that great stuff, I would really, really appreciate it. Massively helps the channel push over to new people that might not see this content. It helps us grow as a community and it really, really means the world to me. So thank you very much for watching if you've made it this far. I hope you're having an amazing day and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.